Alright guys, we are reacting to Revenge of the Sith Humiliates Disney Star Wars by The Critical Drinker. The original video is in the description. Alright, let's go.
Star Wars is dead. That's something you probably heard. Star Wars is dead. That's something you've probably heard many times over the past few years, and it's not hard to see why. The sequel trilogy started out strong, only to turn into an unmitigated disaster. There hasn't been a new movie in almost 6 years, and practically every new show released on Disney Plus has either been a critical or commercial flop. Or both.
Yeah, I agree. Force Awakens was good, but the sequels were not that great. Especially the Lost Jedi, and most of Disney Star Wars is just bleh, not that good. Mandalorian is good. Yeah. What else? What was this again? It was so bad I couldn't finish it. Freaking not Ahsoka, but not what was it called? What's this shit called? I can't remember. Whatever. This was terrible. The power of one, the power of many. Yeah, okay.
And
Terrible.
like anyone hurtling towards their 50th birthday, Star Wars seems to be going through a bit of an identity crisis these days, desperately trying to reinvent itself into something newer and cooler. Which leads to the very obvious question, what even is Star Wars now? Is it a feminist power fantasy? A lightweight adventure for little kids? A dark, gritty political thriller with sci-fi trappings? Or one person's thinly disguised sexual fetish wrapped up in lightsabers and spaceships?
Gay!
I don't really know what Star Wars is meant to be now, but one thing it isn't is successful. Andor, the latest addition to the Disney Plus lineup, cost $650 million in total and pulled in.
I have not seen Andor, so I'm not gonna judge it, but I heard the first season was pretty good, and people are complaining about the second season.
Less than 2 million viewers in its first 3 days.
Oh, come on!
Jesus, I've had videos that get more views in the same time frame. Not only is it not making money for Disney, but even worse than that, Star Wars has lost every shred of cultural relevance it once had. People just don't talk or even care about it anymore, and the only time they do mention it is when some big controversy erupts. Take Andor, for example. The only discourse of any kind around that show is because of a 2-minute scene where an Imperial officer tries to use the Force on a young woman. The Acolyte was talked about, but for all the wrong reasons, to the point where Disney themselves had to step in and confirm that
The Acolyte, that's what this nonsense was. And I do feel sorry for this actor. I forgot his name, but he's from Squid Game, which I'm a fan of. And he wanted to be in Star Wars, and he ended up being in the worst Star Wars thing ever. So that's a shame.
never again would they inflict another series of that absolute catastrophe on us. Meanwhile, Skeleton Crew, which was pretty much free of controversies, was also
Haven't seen that either.
more forgettable than a cheese sandwich and disappeared like a fart in the winds. I actually had to look it up to confirm that yes, it did indeed exist and I watched it. And it cost $130 million to make. It wasn't always like this, you know. Ask any random person on the street who Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker or Han Solo is, and I'm pretty sure they'll be able to tell you even if they've never even watched a Star Wars movie before. Ask that same
Yep.
person who Poe Dameron, Finn, the Mandalorian or Cassian Andor is, and you'll likely be met with the kind of vacant, dead-eyed
What?
stare that would make Billie Eilish look like a model of bright, optimistic intellect. With a string of commercial failures like this and a total collapse in cultural relevance, you can't exactly blame people for concluding that yes, Star Wars as a brand is indeed dead. But then something kind of strange happened. Revenge of the Sith was re-released into cinemas to mark the 20th anniversary of the film's premiere, which itself is nothing particularly unusual. Lucasfilm has a long history of re-releasing older Star Wars movies to mark important anniversaries. It's a nice way to revisit old classics, and for younger fans, it's a chance to experience Star Wars as it was meant to be seen, on the biggest of big screens. But this one was different. Revenge of the Sith raked in more than $42 million worldwide in its first weekend, rocketing up the box office charts like it was some commercially viable new release, instead of a novelty trip down memory lane for hardcore fans only. It would be like some old heavyweight boxer coming out of a 20-year retirement and still being able to kick ass against top-level contenders. And let's not kid ourselves here, this is not some cinematic classic we're talking about. Revenge of the Sith was the deeply flawed conclusion to a not particularly good trilogy, and the audience perception of it has gone through more twists than a David Fincher movie over the years. At first everyone loved it because they were hyped by the Star Wars legacy and the pretty visuals, but then came the YouTube video essay era where it became fashionable to make hour-long videos shitting all over the prequels, and now that we're trapped in the festering swamp of the Disney era, the rose-tinted glasses are coming out and people are starting to look back more favourably on the prequel trilogy. It's all relativism and it's all coloured by what happens to be going on at the current time. But all of this is to say that Revenge of the Sith wasn't and still isn't a particularly great Star Wars movie, but people flock to see it anyway. Why? Because it's the last movie to come out that was still unquestionably Star Wars. Flawed it might have been, but it still embodied the core elements of what Star Wars was supposed to be about. The epic adventure, the hero's journey, the struggle between good and evil, the family melodrama and the love story at its core. Simple stuff, but sometimes the simplest ideas are also the most timeless. On the other hand, the most timely and current day of ideas are likely to become the most divisive and dated. If Disney are looking for an answer to the ongoing question of what Star Wars is supposed to be, well, there it is. This right here is what people want, for better or worse. Star Wars apparently isn't quite as dead as we all thought, and fans do still want more of it. The only problem is, they just don't want your version of it. Maybe that is something you should think about very, very carefully. Oh yeah, and just a heads up that we're down to the last few days on our Kickstarter campaign for Trial by Fire. The response has been absolutely amazing and we've raised...
Alright, I'll stop it there. Yeah, I agree that the sequel trilogy in general, in particular the first two, Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, wasn't that great, especially when it comes to some of the acting, but Revenge of the Sith is pretty good. I I didn't really change my opinion based on the sequel trilogy being bad or people making hour-long essays on YouTube about how it's potentially bad. I've always thought it was really good. So I agree with him, but also disagree with him in terms of it being not so great overall. I do think it's pretty great. And I think Star Wars Theory would definitely disagree with him on this. But yeah, another pretty good. He's making a really good point that Disney Star Wars could learn from this and improve what they are doing with Star Wars because they ruined it. Yeah, so he has this film that he's trying to finance. Let's just finish
As
this.
always, the link is in the description and I'll leave the in pounds already.
Trial by
And now
Fire.
that we're on the home straight, we're pushing hard to reach as many
I don't have any money, so I can't help.
of our stretch goals as possible. I know everyone's already been super generous, but if you're still thinking about becoming a backer, then now is probably the time to act. As always, the link is in the description and I'll leave the rest up to you. Anyway, that's all I've got for
you
today.
Go away.
Go
now.
away now.
Okay. No.
That's all
I
I've got.
hate that. I wish I could find a different way to record, which I probably shouldn't be lazy, and I can find a different way to record so that I stop recording before my recommendations come up. But anyway, thank you guys for watching, and see you next time.